Welcome back to Campbell Racing. Today we're going to talk about pit stop adjustments. What do they do and how do you make them? So we're going to divide this video up into 3 segments. It's going to be like a beginner or basics segment that we're calling the driver, an intermediate segment we're going to call the crew chief, and a more advanced segment we're calling the engineer. Admittedly, I'm more in the driver to crew chief area right now, but I'm hoping to make my way into the engineering area in due time. I would like to give a huge shout out to Michael Conti of Team Conti Sim Performance for sitting down with me and explaining the engineering aspect of this. If you find this video useful, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. And if you want even more information like this, go over to teamconti.gg where the experts really live. And with that, let's get to the driver section. So you're a driver and you don't like the way your car is handling. If you're in the fixed setup races, good luck is about all I can tell you. But stick around and you might learn a thing or two or realize that open setups really aren't that complicated. If you're in the open setup races, good news, we can change how the car handles. There are 3 different ways you can adjust the handling of your car. We will go over them from the smallest impact to the largest impact. The first is the brake bias. This is actually done on track and you can do this in fixed or open setups. Lowering the brake bias will loosen the car and raising the brake bias will tighten the car. Since this is a small adjustment, it's only going to help you if you're a 1 or 2 out of 10 loose or tight. If you're a 2 to 4 out of 10 loose or tight, you'll want to adjust the tire pressures. Go to the tires black box. You're only going to want to make a 1 or 2 click adjustment here. Anything past that and you're getting a bit ahead of yourself and you should be making the next change, the spring perch adjustments. If you're a 4 out of 10 or higher, loose or tight, this is what's going to help you out. Go to the black box you see on the screen and here's where you can make your adjustments. But what adjustments should you make? There are tons of cheat sheets out there. Here's the Team Conti cheat sheet that they have graciously provided for this video. One thing to keep in mind though, this is just a cheat sheet. It is not the answer key. These are not hard and fast rules or clicks to go by, but general rules of thumb to get you going in the right direction. You're just a driver after all. Anything more than this and you'll need to stick around for the next segment, the crew chief. Okay. So you've advanced your understanding and want to leave those drivers in the dust. Here's where you're going to make that happen. Short fueling. Yes, it's that important. When you short fuel the car, you will be making the car lighter, thus faster. However, you will also be making the car tighter. Light is tight, as the saying goes. So to combat and counteract that, you'll need to make adjustments to the car. The best way to do that is through the perch adjustments, so let's dive into those a little deeper. Now we're going to get into the spring perch adjustments. Let's have a look at the black box for this. Think of the clicks as a screw in a piece of wood. Right click will push the screw further into the wood, or righty-tighty, and left click will pull the screw back out of the wood, or lefty-loosey. So now that we have that fundamental in place, let's see how it looks with 2 screws. We're looking at this from behind the car, so the screw on the left is the left rear, and the screw on the right is the right rear. Now let's put a string between the 2 screws. This is our baseline. The screws are at their baseline depth, and the string is completely horizontal. This is how the car drives right now with no adjustments. We'll put the number of clicks above the screws here to illustrate this. As you can imagine, the steeper the slope of the red line, or the difference in the height of the screws, whichever way you want to look at it, the bigger adjustment you are making. The left screw being lower than the right causes a loose condition. The right screw being lower than the left will make a tight condition. You can make different adjustments that result in the slope of the red line being exactly the same. These adjustments are roughly the same, but not exactly, and we'll get into that in the next section. On the Cup car specifically, you need to be very careful not to go too low with the right rear or the right screw. Due to the diffuser, it's easy to go too low here and cause the diffuser to scrape on the ground. In short fuel adjustments for all series, you'll want to focus your major adjustments, aka more clicks, on the left rear. Now you've gone far down the rabbit hole and you want to know how all the things affect the car. Congratulations, you're an engineer. In order to do this, you're going to need to analyze telemetry. Good thing for you, Team Conti has an absolutely free Motec workbook on their site that has all the data you'll ever need. I highly recommend going to teamconti.gg and picking up this free workbook to get down to the nitty-gritty details here. Now let's take one last look at those spring perch adjustments. Let's go back and revisit those perch adjustments. Here's our trusty picture with the nails and the string. In reality, there is no string, so let's remove that. There are also no nails, so let's remove those. What we are left with is just the block of wood. Let's replace that with something more meaningful. Before, when we were raising and lowering the screws, what we were actually doing was raising and lowering the rear of the car. So remember when we had the angle or slope of the string being the same, but the screws were at different heights? I said those adjustments weren't quite the same, and this is why. Depending on which adjustment you made, the back of the car is actually higher or lower to the ground. Here's the big kicker. This is only half of the picture. Remember when I said that short fueling made the car tighter? Well, if we rotate this picture around, we're now looking at the side of the car. All the cars have their fuel tanks at the rear of the vehicle. So as we remove fuel, we remove weight from the rear, thus making the front of the car pitch down. This puts us in a tight condition. To counteract that, we can lower the rear of the car by tightening those screws or going positive on the clicks. Make the right adjustment, and the only way you have affected the car is by changing the slope of that virtual red string. If you go too far with these adjustments, you end up in a situation like this, and you're in a loose condition. All of this is dynamic and will change over the course of a run because of the dynamic amount of fuel in the car. So in reality, you're affecting both the slope of that red string and the pitch from the front to the back of the car, known as the rake. You want to keep the rake the same so that you're only making one adjustment instead of two. This is where telemetry will come into play, and you can use the Team Conti Motec workbook to see if you should be raising or lowering each side of the car so that you're only affecting the string slope and not the rake. Another thing to consider here is your spring package. 2 clicks with a 3,000-pound spring does not have the same travel as 2 clicks with a 500-pound spring. The lower the spring package, the more clicks you'll need to make equal travel adjustments to a higher spring package. Again, this is where Motec is your friend, and you'll want to experiment with your spring packages and vehicle ride height to determine how many clicks equals what travel. A final note here. One rule of engineering is to reduce the number of variables and only change one thing at a time. If you're changing multiple things, you don't know what actually made the change. So with that, here's a bonus tip. Say there's 10 laps left in the race when a caution comes out. You've already made your adjustments and can make it on fuel. Even though you can make it, refill the car to the amount of fuel you had for your short fuel run, whether you make any adjustments or not. The car will fire off differently with 12 gallons versus 4 gallons of fuel. Since you've already driven it with 12 gallons, reduce that variable and make any needed adjustments off of that. If you stay at 4 gallons and make more adjustments, you're adding an unknown on top of an unknown, which is a recipe for disaster. The advantage you gain by being 8 gallons lighter isn't significant enough to warrant the risk of you not knowing how the car is going to fire off. So there you have it. You now know how to properly adjust your car based on the changes you want to make. Whether you are at the driver level, crew chief level, or an engineer, being able to confidently improve the car over the course of the run is a huge bonus and will get you more wins. Again, if you enjoyed the video and learned something, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. If you want to know more, consider signing up over at teamconti.gg, where they have experts that can go into way more detail than I can. So that'll do it from here. Thanks for watching.